So again, my name is Dan Antonelli. I'm the creative director here at KickCharge. I'm responsible for the brand development for the designs that we do here. So logo design has been a passion of mine. It's something that, I've almost, I feel like I've been obsessed with. So it's really the foundation of everything that we do here at this agency. So we really believe strongly that the brand is central to the success of all the campaigns that we undertake on behalf of our clients. So the big thing that we try to stress when we think about brands is how to create brands that are disruptive in nature. And by that, I mean brands that stand out, that don't look like everybody else's brand. So we're going to walk through basically what all that stuff means, how you can integrate it in your business, and why it's so important for your business, and how it's such a great opportunity for you guys to do something that's different in your market, and certainly something that would stand out. So a lot of times we look at brands and, people throw the term branding around, and it's not a complicated concept, but I want to just talk really about the basics about what it means. So if you think about branding, and you really think about a wheel, and in the center of that wheel, you've got a logo, and the logo is really the foundation that is built around that wheel. So the spokes of that wheel are the things that integrate that actual logo. So you have outdoor advertising, you have social, stationery, web design, uniforms, print collateral. So really the logo serves as the foundation, the hub really of all those elements. And that's the driving force from which everything else is built. That really gives you the foundation to build everything. So, the reality is without a good brand, all those other efforts that you may undertake are really going to be compromised. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if you're sending people to a website that doesn't have good branding, if you're handing out a brochure that doesn't have good branding, or if you're driving around in a truck that doesn't have good branding, that means all those efforts that you're undertaking are being compromised because you're not making the most of the opportunity for when you have that customer interacting with your brand. So to give you an example, you can see here, so we've got Timo's, which is the logo right here. And then we've got how this logo is integrated across their different channels. So you can see how we've got it on his billboard, how it looks in his collateral, and how it looks on his door hangers. And this is another example too, showing how his stationery right here looks. Obviously his truck wrap design, his website, and his business cards. And this is actually a before of his business card that you can see. So showing really visually how the brand now lives. Once we created that brand, implementing it across all those different channels. So branding as a definition, what is branding? So one way to think about branding is what a brand is what people feel about your company, and a brand is what people might say about your company behind their back. Maybe they're at a party talking to their friends, and they're saying, hey, we just had some amazing HVAC service done with this company. And what would they say if they were talking about your company to their friends? How would they describe the experience in dealing with your company? And the other part is a brand is certainly the perception of your company that is formed by all the touch points with which a consumer interacts. So if they've seen your truck driving down the street, if they saw a Facebook ad, or if they saw a guy in a store in uniform, what would they think your company was like to do business with? Would they think that your company was reputable? Is it a company that they want to do business with? Does it look like they're going to be honest and trustworthy? Those are all things that brand is communicating. So making sure all those touch points are so critical to having people really believe in your company, believe that it's a company that is going to be around for a while, and certainly a company that instills the confidence that they need to hire a company. I mean, let's face it, if you're going to be dropping, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 on a heating and air conditioning system, I want to make sure that the company that I'm choosing to do business with is going to be around next year. So controlling and making sure that those initial perceptions of your business are done in a positive way really maximize your ROI. So, I look at brands, and most of the brands we look at for companies that want us to help them do things, most of them I would categorize as either neutral, meaning that I don't have a negative or positive impression of their business, or negative, meaning I've seen something that they've put out, and based on that initial perception, I don't believe that this company really is professional, honest, trustworthy, or is going to do the right thing by me. So what are some of the characteristics of a good heating and air brand? certainly, like we mentioned, they're disruptive. They don't fit in. They stand out for the right reasons. We've all seen a million heating and air logos that are red arrows, red and blue arrows going around in circles. Well, great. But how many other companies have a red and blue arrow? You know, like, does that really stand out? Is that really telling something positive about our company? Again, good HVAC brands delivered a positive brand promise and a perceived value proposition, meaning I don't know anything at all about this company, but I've seen their logo, and based on seeing their logo on the side of a truck, I believe that they're going to do a good job for me. I believe that the money that they want to charge me is justified because they're going to be around next year if something goes wrong with my system. So those are all important parts of what make a good HVAC brand. Certainly the basics as far as using easy to read typography. Well, you know, the most critical aspect of your brand is going to be on the side of a truck. So if I can't read it on the side of a truck, then obviously that's not something that's going to be helpful. Great brands also tell the story quickly and efficiently. Okay, so I want to be able to look at your messaging and understand it, digest it, and then know from looking at it what is it that your company does and why do I want to work with them. Again, instilling themes like confidence, security, longevity, those are all so critical because, again, a lot of people have a negative stereotype about contractors. So we want to make sure that what we put in front of them already sets the stage. It's already delivering something that's positive, that they feel like this company is going to do the right thing. And naming is also a very important part. So, you know, the more memorable the name is, the better it is, the more sticky it is, the more people tend to remember what that name is. So why is this such a unique opportunity? I mean, we get calls all the time for people that want us to do work for them. They send us what their logo is, and you know, we look at it, and unfortunately, a lot of times it's something that we just feel like we can't do justice to. So I can't put their existing logo on the side of a truck because I know it's not going to work. I know it's not going to deliver what they're asking us to do. So the opportunity is that so many of your competitors, they don't understand branding. They're not embracing how important branding is. So their brands are either neutral or negative. So what would happen if your brand was something that stood out, that delivered a positive brand promise, and was unique in your space? So many of your competitors are doing creating brands that look like everybody else's brands, and they blend in and they're forgotten. So the biggest idea that we have here is, well, what would happen if what you guys delivered matched how you looked? Okay, so I don't know anything at all about your company, but I look at this amazing brand that's out there, and I already think that I'm going to get a great service. So the problem most HVAC companies have is they deliver this great service. They're really awesome at what they do. They just don't look like it. They don't look like they're going to deliver a great job. You know, if I look at their truck or if I look at the guys in uniform that show up at my door, I may not think that they're going to do a great job. So what would happen to your business if suddenly everything that was out there, every single touch point, whether they hit the website, whether they saw a uniform or you handed out a business card, if all those things spoke to the experience that they would get if they chose to do business with you, that awesome experience that you guys can deliver, well, then usually it's a home run. So what would happen if your business looked as impressive as the work you provided? So becoming a brand and visual disruptor. So, you know, this is just one simple example showing how a brand that's created using unique colors, simple to read lettering, is disruptive, right? This truck is driving down the street. You know, it's so disruptive because of the color scheme. And those are the types of things we're talking about, building disruptive brands, things that stand out. So again, here's two different clients here, right? It's the same company. It's Air Experts. Okay, this is what shows up on my driveway. This is the guy that came to give me an estimate. And this is the other guy that came to give me an estimate. So which one of these two companies do you think is going to get the job? Which one looks like he's going to be in business next year? The irony of this particular job is that this company, Air Experts, is actually a very small company. It only has 2 vans. But if I judge them based on the appearance and how the brand is perceived, I think that they're a lot larger. I think that they're going to be around next year if I have a problem. So again, this is just one example showing how critical that first perception can be to people. So the biggest question people have is, okay, well, if I go through this whole exercise of rebranding, what's going to happen to my business? What can I expect to get? What's the ROI? Obviously, it's the bottom line, right? I'm going to spend all this money. What am I going to get out of it? So these are just a couple of examples. So, you know, you could see here for Hanson Heating and Air, here's their previous van, right? So you look at that closely, and it's very difficult to read. I don't really know what the company does based on that. So we rebranded them, created this, very nice, memorable mascot, okay, and very simple to read lettering. And right off the bat, I have a much different impression of this company versus this company. But Hanson, after we finished, had a 46% increase in revenue the first year after rebranding. I mean, that's huge, huge ROI right there. Sunny Plumber is another company. They're based out in Phoenix and Las Vegas. Their previous brand was okay. It wasn't that it was terrible, but it was just okay. But certainly the new brand is a lot more eye-catching. It's a lot more happy, a lot more memorable. And they had experienced 55% increase in sales with their new brand after the first year. This is another company we did, a more simplified rebrand, but still they had call tracking on their phone numbers. So we knew exactly how many more leads they had with their new brand versus their old brand. And they had an 865% increase. Timo's, as you've seen earlier, 400% increase in sales 4 years after a new brand. You can ask any one of these guys if rebranding was one of the best marketing investments they ever made, and none of them will dispute that fact. It's something that they all fully believe has transformed their business in a positive way. And you may be familiar with Gettle. Gettle is out in Phoenix and Las Vegas as well. It's owned by Ken Goodrich. And this is a company that we rebranded. They'd been around forever, like a very old company, been around for a long time. This is their previous previous brand and truck wrap design. And then we rebranded them. And that company has grown from $8 million a year in revenue to $40 million in 3 years since rebranding. That's $32 million increase in revenue. I mean, it's insane what that brand has done and how everything around this messaging has really connected with the people that they're trying to sell. So again, brand promise. Brand promise is the concept regarding what do I think about your company before I've chosen to do business with it. So here's a couple examples of what the brand promise was before and after. So here's Hanson's previous brand, another one for Las Vegas, and you could see, how different the brand promise is before and after rebranding. Another two companies as an example here that you can see. And here's a couple examples showing just on the vehicle itself how radical of a difference a new brand can be. So you've got Cornerstone Air over here. This is the type of lettering. It's functional, right? So you can read it at least, but what does it say about the company is really the bigger question. And you're not getting really much about this company, right? I don't know what I can really expect to get. It's a lot of information. It's kind of hard to read. It's got 3 phone numbers on here, things like that. And then you see the new rebrand and it looks so much more polished, so much more professional. It's got a nice warm character. I feel like this is a company that cares. I've got this nice tagline on here, fair, fast, and friendly. I mean, those are all things that people are looking to see. Another company that we rebranded is a company called American Vintage Homes, just outside of Chicago. Now, this was their previous brand. They said to us before we embarked on this journey with them, they initially hired us to do their website, which we did, and I'll show you that in a second. But they said, well, everyone knows our vans. Everyone knows what they look like. And if you look at their vans over here, you might be able to make the same assessment. Yeah, if I had seen this van, I would say I've seen it before. I know what this van looks like. But that's not the question. The question isn't whether or not we've seen the van. The question is whether or not the van communicates what it is that we do and why we should do business with you. And this doesn't answer that question. This van is recognizable. It could be orange, and you would say you'd seen the orange vans. It's the same concept. So when we rebranded them, that was the thing we wanted to make sure of. Great company. They do this amazing work on old vintage homes, and they wanted to make sure that people knew how professional they were. So when we rebranded them, that was part of what we did. And if you look here, I can show you real quick what their website looks like. So here's their website here, and you could see how this website really feels warm. It feels like a company that I want to do business with. It feels like a company that is interested in working with us and doing the right thing and standing behind the work. So that's just one example of showing how that brand is integrated there. Okay. Air Zero is another example of a client that we did out in Florida. Here's their previous brand. It's standard, it's functional, but yet which one stands out? Which one is going to break through the clutter? Which one feels like something that I haven't seen before? Okay, the unique colors here, the blue and the dark blue and the way it's angled, certainly is something that is more memorable than what they were previously using over here. Here's another example. This shows a classic problem with a lot of the truck wraps that you see today. The lettering here for rich air previously was nearly illegible, right? It's hard to read as this is driving by at 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. So the new branding over here, you can see much more legible, much more memorable. I mean, seeing this van driving around, who's going to forget seeing something like this? So it tells a much different story than their previous brand did. Another example here for Harold King, a client that we did their branding. Obviously the name King, you know, there's a certain connotation that goes with it. So we created this mascot. And what's really cool about this brand is we actually made it so that this brand, this mascot, they had him made into a physical mascot. So they attend community events dressed up as the Harold King mascot. They hand out, you know, t-shirts and mugs and things like that in their brand. So they actually took it one step further and made their mascot an actual physical thing that showed up at all these events. And it's been hugely successful. Like, these guys are just killing it. So another important part of building a disruptive brand is owning your colors, right? So unique colors certainly aid in recognition of your brand. The most popular colors, just go on Google and type in HVAC logos and see how many of them are blue and red. Okay, so if that's the case, if everybody is doing blue and red, then that's certainly something that we want to think long and hard on as to whether or not that even makes sense for us to be blue and red. You know, the other thing too is obviously making sure that you're checking what your competitors are doing in your space. Part of our process is to research the companies that are in your space, see what colors they're using, and make sure that our color scheme is something that's different. So we try to think about colors as, you know, thinking about colors that maybe companies haven't seen used together or look different. So that's really an important piece of building something that's more memorable. If everyone is using red and blue, and you suddenly were, you know, orange and apple green, well, then you know what? It's more than likely you can own those particular colors because no one else in your space is using them. So consider using colors not typically seen or deployed together. So here's an example of a client that we did their branding for. You can see the teal here and the dark red colors, and even how this illustration itself is done. This is a unique color scheme. Okay, this is something driving down the road that's going to catch your attention because it doesn't look like every other truck wrap that's out there. Here's another example. You know, orange and teal and dark blue, a very, very nice palette that works very well together. And you can see how clean this truck wrap is with this big R on there. Again, something driving down the road that's more likely to break through the clutter. This is a client that we just branded out in Las Vegas. You've got orange and dark yellow and teal. You know, very, very unique colors. You probably haven't seen a lot of brands done in these unique colors. But again, driving down, you know, and looking at this van that passes you, it's certainly going to catch your eye. It's disruptive. It doesn't feel like other things that you've seen before. And that's really the whole thought process behind it. This is a client. He's here on the webinar today for Matheson Heating and Air, and it's a great story because his grandfather started the company after coming home from the war. He was a pilot, and we developed this brand for him. That's actually his grandfather, a likeness of his grandfather. And I'm sure Michael can tell you, you know, that the vans have been a huge part of his success. People see these vans driving down the road. And the colors are very unique. You know, the tans and the browns and the olive greens and this dark red, they don't look like any other truck in his space. And that's great. That's what we're looking for. We want something that's different. So brand names, obviously a very important part of building a unique and memorable HVAC brand and disruptive brand. So listen, a lot of times you can't change the name of your company. You know, you've had it for so long, maybe it doesn't make sense to change it. But we're going to talk about which names work best and which names are the hardest to brand, just so you have an understanding as to what the challenges are inherent in different names. So, you know, a great name, you know, would visually connect with something. So it maybe conjures up a symbol or a graphic that is much easier for people to remember as something driving down the road, and there's a name that conjures up an image in that consumer's minds. Well, that's going to be much easier to remember than if the name of the company is, you know, TJS, heating and air. Well, TJS, well, what am I supposed to visually connect with TJS? You can't. There's nothing to connect with an initial-based brand or names that use initials. So initial-based brands are really the hardest ones to gain traction with. Okay, so it's very difficult to get people to know what any initials are supposed to be associated with in a specific line of business that they're associated with. So if you have TJS Heating and Air, or you've got Air Experts, well, Air Experts already tells me what you do. TJS tells me nothing about what you do. So, you know, those are typically the hardest ones to do. Last names are the second hardest, really, brands to gain traction with, because the last name is, again, something that people don't know necessarily just yet what that last name means. Even if you've been in the community for a long time, they take a little bit longer to gain traction. Okay, so they're not as easy for people to remember it right off the bat. Okay, and then think of names which instill an expected value or a positive brand promise. You know, one of the jobs that we have on here that we'll talk about is a company called Air Professionals. So Air Professionals already tells me that the company that's coming to my door, well, they're professionals, right? That's their name. So thinking about naming as such a crucial part of whether or not the brands will be successful is something to give some thought to. You know, we've recently done a lot of naming for different companies. We've had companies that have had the same name for many years and have decided to rebrand. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Cool Experts already had that name, but you can see how this is a great name, right? Cool Experts. And we've got this bear over here. You know, he's a cool looking bear. You know, so you put the two together. You could cover up the name and you could cover up the mascot, and you would still have a sense of what this company does. AirLogix was a company that we rebranded and we renamed. They used to be called Bayside Refrigeration. They were out in New York. And the problem with their name was Bayside is a location in Queens, and they were trying to get into other areas. And because their name was Bayside, people didn't think they serviced other areas. So we changed the name of the company. I named them AirLogix. We came up with this new color scheme and new brand. And they're doing really well in this space. They service mainly commercial, but you can see how this look and how this feel, this look and feel of this brand communicate really that sense of professionalism that people would expect, especially on the commercial side. Rocket Drains is another great name for a company. Rocket meaning something fast, right? So they're going to come fast. I've got a problem with my plumbing. I need somebody fast. And Rocket also dealing with the fact that after they're done, maybe the water is going to go down like a rocket. So, you know, again, a name that really lends itself visually to something, right? So you've got this rocket, you got this boy on this rocket, you got this cool color scheme. So these are the types of names that really work very well to gain traction with faster. Okay, so the big thing is you can brand anything as long as you throw enough money at it. And most of the time, you know, our clients don't have the money to throw tons of money into a brand to get people to remember it. So you want to make the most of that opportunity. Sometimes you have a name like Swanton, which is a client here in New Jersey that we rebranded. And Swanton has a name that sounds like something, right? It sounds like a swan. So why not connect those two? And you could see we came up with this logo. It's also an S over here, which is part of what makes it kind of neat. And now at least I've got a visual connection to their last name. A recent company that we also just branded was a company called Barker Heating and Air. And for Barker, we use the dog, and the dog's mouth is a bone. So, you know, you could kind of see how a name like Barker and the dog makes sense because they're connected, right? Here's another company out in California that we did their branding for, Do It Right Plumbing, or Do It Right Plumbers. So again, Do It Right Plumbers. Do I think these guys are going to come and screw up the job, or do I think that this is the company that does it right? Well, it says it in their name, they do it right. So a good example of a name that delivers a positive brand promise without me knowing anything at all about them. So connecting your brand to your audience. Okay, so making sure every single touch point needs to connect with your customers. So making sure that your brand is consistent in delivering a brand promise no matter where they interact with it. Okay, so digital marketing, web design, email marketing, social. So this is the part that I think is so critical when we're talking about brands, right? So we're gonna spend all this money on SEO or this beautiful website, and we're gonna send them to a generic website that doesn't integrate our brand. Like, that doesn't make any sense for us. Okay, so for us, we want to make sure that that brand is living and breathing on that website, not just on the visuals. Okay, not just integrating the words of that the aesthetics of that brand, but also the words on the website. They're so important. How does that brand live and breathe on that website? Because we're going to spend all this money driving traffic to this website. And if the website itself is generic or looks like all your competitors' websites, then what are we doing here? That doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make sense to send people to a website that's generic if the whole thing that we're trying to do is build something that's unique in your market. So we're so big on the fact that making sure that once that brand is done, that it's integrated across your platforms in a way that's uniquely associated with your brand specifically. It doesn't look like anyone else's, and it doesn't speak like anyone else's. So the web design, email marketing, social media channels, those are all things that every time that customer interacts with your brand, that same messaging has to be consistent. The print materials as well, same thing, sales brochures, the PSAs that you guys are handing out. You know, if you got your technicians out trying to sell PSAs, well, how do we can't sell PSAs if they don't look professional, okay? If I'm the homeowner, I need to see value in signing up for PSA. Otherwise, why would I do it? So making sure all those touch points, again, communicate that brand promise. Outdoor, certainly vehicles, billboards, uniforms, all those things still need to integrate in the same way. So digital marketing, don't be generic. Strong brands deliver better ROIs. So give you a quick example. This is a client that we did their branding for, a company called Texas Air. All right, so if you scroll, and you could go to visit their site later, it's texasairinc.com. But we did their branding, and their tagline is "Sworn to protect your comfort." And then you scroll through the website that we did for them, and you can see how the brand is integrated. You know, there's no question that summer will attack you with guns blazing. You know, so it's going beyond just talking about, yes, we can fix your heating and air. You know, by Jingo, they love us, and sachet up for major savings. I mean, the brand is living and breathing on this document and this website and the materials that we produce for them. So those are things that really go beyond just the visuals. Also, just the words are so critical. So, you know, when we think about driving traffic to some of these sites, you know, those are some of the things that are so critical to making sure that you can convert that visitor, right? So they come into the site, we got to make sure that we convert that into a sale or into a lead. So making sure that all those things match is really critical. So we always look at it as, you know, invest in the brand first before you start investing in all your online strategies and things like that, because those online strategies and those other marketing initiatives, the ROI is going to be compromised unless the brand is really done correctly. And again, making sure the brand voice is defined in social media as well. So as you're speaking and engaging with clients online, what does the brand sound like? You know, what's the voice of that particular brand, and making sure you've got a handle on that as well. Let me just go back to full screen. So we just talked about Texas Air. That was the one example I wanted to show. There's their truck wrap. Again, you could see how this truck wrap is very disruptive. It doesn't really look like other truck wraps in that particular space. This is another client that we did their branding for called Tuna Heating and Air. Tuna is out in Minnesota. And for Tuna, you know, we came up with the concept of their brand to integrate the Goldilocks bear. And the tagline for Tuna is the Just Right Company. You can see it over here. Because what do people want? Well, they don't want their heating to be too hot, and they don't want it to be too cold. The same thing for their air conditioning. They want it to be just right. So that message is infused in all their communication channels with that bear. So it's a great way to say, this company is going to do it the right way. They're going to do it just right. And that's what I want, right? I want my house to be just right. I don't want it to be one or the other. So that's a great way to show how the brand is integrated. This is the work that we had done for Hanson, that you could see, again, how the brand is integrated and infused throughout the different channels. So print marketing, we talked a little bit before about the PSAs and things like that. So listen, everybody wants to put all their money online. Like, I get it, it's fine. It's where we recommend most of our clients put their marketing dollars, right? That's where most people are shopping these days. But the bottom line is print is still not dead. Okay, print marketing is still something that's important. It helps close sales. It helps people sell, especially the PSAs. We've seen some tremendous increases in close ratios to the clients we've done really, really nice print brochures and collateral for. Because again, it's often ignored by their competition. people aren't handing out brochures nowadays. They're putting all their money online. Well, when I give my estimate to Mrs. Smith or Mr. Smith, I want to have something that represents my company and why that they should choose to do business with us. So the messages that are contained in pieces like that really do help with the sales process. And we've seen, really a big turnaround in some of the clients that we've done a really nice brochure for, because people just feel like the company's more reputable, more polished, again, delivering everything about that brand promise that we want them to see. So, you can see it's often ignored by the competitors. It definitely helps when you're trying to sell things like maintenance agreement programs, and then used consistently, obviously, on your direct mail, on any postcards, door hangers, equipment stickers, things like that need to integrate the brand in the same way. Here's a few examples for Blanton's Heating and Air. You can see how the brochure is done. It's very consistent with the rest of the marketing that we've done for them. And you can see here, this is some direct mail that we've done. This is a brochure we did for Mozzie out in San Diego. Some door hangers. And then things even just as simple as stationery, right? So you're going to send a thank you letter maybe, or you're going to send out some communications to your customers after you're done with working with them. This is another great example of making the most of this opportunity to create an impression. You get an envelope and a business card and a piece of stationery like this, and it doesn't look like everybody else's stationery. Okay, so that one touch point is making an impression. Here's another example of some stationery we did for Encore Heating and Air out in Florida. And this is one of the PSAs that we did for Clear the Air out in Houston. So, you could see you've got the silver, gold, and platinum plans. Here's all the deliverables that are clearly spelled out. And this is all on brand. So if I'm the homeowner and I'm being asked to sign up for a PSA, I want to see what I'm signing up for. I don't really want to be directed to a website. I'd like to have something in my hand. And this is so useful for your technicians to deploy, because now they've got something that helps do the selling for them. All the details are spelled out in writing, and the homeowner can look at this and see if it's something that they want to sign up for. There's another door hanger that we did for Hanson. So outdoor marketing is another critical component of your brand. The most critical component is your vehicles. Okay, so your truck wraps are the single most important application of your brand. So that opportunity is huge. Okay, the amount of impressions that van gets driving through the communities that you serve cannot be rivaled with any other advertising medium that's out there. So the cost that you'll spend in doing that truck is by far the most economical in terms of cost per impression than any other medium. So the great thing about truck wraps is that most of your competitors don't have any idea of what they're doing with their truck wraps. They're usually a total mess. So that's great for us, right? Because if all the other trucks in your area are a mess and you have something that's amazing that goes out on the street, that's great, because that means that you're going to stand out again. They're going to notice your truck. And certainly it's consistent regardless of whether or not you have a box truck, whether you have a pickup truck or a sales vehicle, making sure that that brand lives consistently on all the different vehicles, not just the one vehicle, is really important. I'm going to show you a couple examples of that too. So here's obviously outdoor. Here's some billboards that we did for Sunny Plumber. Another billboard for Timo's. And we're going to talk a little bit about the truck wraps themselves, right? So here's just some tips to think about when you're getting a truck wrap design done. Obviously critical, right? We spent the whole this time talking about having a great brand. That's the foundation. You can't design an effective truck wrap if you don't have a great brand, okay? So make sure that you've got that piece put together before you embark on trying to put that truck wrap on all different canvases like the truck wrap. So don't use photos, right? So a lot of people think that using photos is something that will gain a lot of attention. Like, you've seen some guys, sometimes they want to have a photo of a condenser unit and a green sky and a blue sky and green grass, right? But why do we want to have a picture of a condenser unit on the side of our truck so people know that we do heating and air? Okay, well, maybe they know we do heating and air, but do they know who it is that does the heating and air? Or are we using all this real estate to show a picture of something, a piece of equipment, but not even advertise our own brand? So photographs are generally a mistake on truck wraps. They don't work, and they're not representing your brand. So we never used photographs on our truck wraps. It's something that just doesn't make a lot of sense from a brand perspective. I know some companies get co-op dollars from the manufacturers if they put a picture of their condenser unit on. It doesn't work. Just stick to putting your brand on there only. Limit the wording on your truck wrap. You see guys put like a whole laundry list of everything that they do. Don't do that, because it's something that will be hard to read at a distance. So as that van is driving by, if I've got 4 or 5 bullet points in addition to the phone and the website and the name of the company, I'm not going to remember any of it. So typically bullet points come at the expense of branding. So most important, heating, air, cooling, or heating, air, plumbing, if you do both, that should obviously be on there, and the brand should be focal point. Designed to stand out, not fit in. What we mean by that is, again, you could put an orange or pink truck out on the road and people would know it and it would stand out, I guess, but does it really communicate the right messaging? We want things to stand out, but in the right way, we want them to stand out. I say simple and obvious is good. So avoid all the crazy effects that people can do, like, drop shadows and, carbon fiber fills and all this crazy stuff that are just a couple of key clicks away for your wrap designer to add. Those things tend to take away from your brand instead of enhancing your brand. And like I mentioned earlier, design for a fleet, not just one vehicle, meaning you have to make sure that whatever you design for that first vehicle is going to work on other canvases. So again, here's a very simple truck wrap design that we did for a good brulette. You can see a very large G. It's something that's going to be memorable. I'm going to, see this truck driving down the road, and I'm going to remember this large G on there and what that represents. And I've got heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, and then the phone and the website. Very simple, very easy to digest. Unique colors, this gold color and this dark blue. And it's easy for me to really figure out what this company does. Here's another company we did for Done Heating and Cooling. I love the tagline that they have here: get it done right or your money back. They're already specifying a unique selling proposition that they have there, and it's done in a way on the truck that doesn't get in the way of the branding. It does it in a way that enhances the branding. And this is a very nice color scheme. And again, if I saw something like this, I think it would catch some attention. Duck Dudes is a client here in New Jersey that does duct cleaning. They're often asked if they're a franchise. Look at the way that this branding is done, and they look like a much larger company, but it is really, I think at this point, it's 3 or 4 vans that they have. They have aspirations of franchising down the road, but for right now, people feel a sense of confidence in this brand because it looks larger than they really are. Here's a client that we have that we did a great name, Attaboy. Attaboy. It sounds like they do the right thing. And here's this really cool boy that we have integrated on their truck wrap design. He's happy, he's smiling, he's doing the right thing. And the way these colors work together, everything about this brand is something that's disruptive and something that's more likely to be remembered. Cool Experts we saw earlier. Rotini Fuel is a larger company and more of a corporate approach, but this is a larger company. They have about 50 or 60 vans in New York State. And, this is a very cool icon that we developed. It's a B and also an F, but it's got a certain feel to it that would instill that confidence and represent the size of the company that they are. Blanton's is a company that we did out in Fayetteville. For Blanton's, it's kind of an interesting story because the owner was at a traffic light and he saw his van drive by while he was waiting, and he saw 2 of his competitors drive by, and they all looked the same, and he said, well, my vans look just like everybody else's. And it was at that point he contacted us, and we came up with this mascot. We actually named the mascot Coolidge, and we came up with this color scheme, this purple and gray for him, which is very different than you would expect for a heating and air company, but that's what makes it work so well. He owns that color now in his space. And that's, really, Blanton and his team, they're doing so well. And certainly this brand has played a huge role in that. As I mentioned earlier, when we were talking about designing for a fleet, this is a perfect example showing how this fleet needed to be integrated across some different vehicles. So you have an Econoline and a pickup truck and the NV2500s. So you could see that regardless of what vehicle that brand lived on, it still looked like it was from the same company. So that's very important. So a lot of companies have different vans and trucks, pickups, utility bodies in their fleet. You need to make sure that it's going to work for all of those. So, a lot of things we covered. Where do you want to start to get a new brand? Where do you go? Obviously try to partner with a design firm that really understands the various applications that that brand needs to live. So do they have experience designing a logo and then having that logo be integrated on all the different channels? Can they put it on a website? Can they put it on the side of a truck and have it work? You know, that's a very unique skill set, but it's something that, you know, that's a good question that you should be asking them to make sure that they can handle that and have tangible examples of how they've actually executed that for other companies just like yours. Another thing to talk about real quick is just, you know, the dangers of crowdsourcing. So the internet has been great for many things, but certainly, you know, buying a logo online is something you need to be very careful with. It seems like it's a bargain. It seems like it's a good idea to have maybe a logo contest for people to, you know, have them design a logo for you. You have all these people competing in these contests. But listen, the real problem with it is the biggest problem is trademark infringement and not getting unique artwork. We've had, I'd say at this point, probably 40 or 50 of our logos that we've designed for different clients stolen from some of these crowdsourcing sites and resold to other people. So it's a shame because the person who buys it doesn't know that it's stolen. And they go to apply it for many different things like their website and a whole bunch of trucks. And then we find out that someone's stolen our logo, or our client finds out, and then the lawyers get involved and the cease and desist go out, and it's ugly. And you know, we just had an example of a client that had our logo that we did for them. Actually, was Timo's Heating and Air. Their logo was stolen and wrapped on 4 trucks. And the company that bought it thought they were getting original artwork, and it wasn't. And they had to take off the lettering for 4 trucks. It was, you know, it was about $14,000 worth of truck wraps that went in the garbage. So, you know, listen, it's something you have to be really cognizant of, because a lot of those designers are overseas. You have no legal recourse. The companies that run those crowdsourcing sites, there's no liability involved, so you can't go to them and say, you sold me a trademarked logo. So just be aware of the dangers of it. And again, you don't have any real communication with the people that you're that are doing these designs. So that's another very serious problem with that, is that you're not talking to the people who are actually going to be doing the design work. One other point to make too is using clip art, right? So clip art is a huge problem. And the problem with clip art is you can't own it, can't trademark it, and you can't prevent anyone in your space from using it. One of the largest heating and air contractors in the United States has clip art for their logo. It's on about 120 trucks. Problem with that is that anyone in their space could use the same exact logo and they'd have absolutely no recourse to defend it because their logo is actually clip art. So be very careful with clip art. If you're going to use it, it's just not a good idea really on so many levels, because it just means that someone else out there can use it and you can't defend it. When we finish our brands for our clients, it's something that we ask them to get involved with. We have a trademark lawyer that we work with. Get the logo trademarked, get it protected, and that will insulate you and give you the protection moving forward in case anyone else does steal it. So we always recommend getting our logos trademarked after we create it. We obviously don't use clip art. We use all original artwork when we're creating our brands for our clients. So that's something too to make sure you keep in mind. So that's it. I realize I got through a lot of stuff here. In the chat, if anybody has any specific questions that they'd like me to answer, you know, you could just type the message. I think if I type a message here, you might see something pop up. And if you have any questions that you have for me, any specific questions, you know, feel free to type away. Thanks, Robert. Robert's one of our clients out on the West Coast. Robert's got a great name also. It's Good Guy Plumbing, and he's got a great brand that we did for him, and he's doing really well in his space. He's a good guy. Thanks, Rob. And Brian, too, another client of ours that we did their branding for as well. Thanks, Mark. Oh, Vin. Yeah, Vin, we should talk about rebranding CBA. That's the Christian Brothers Academy out here in New Jersey. It's a high school that we were fortunate enough to rebrand. I think it's on our wall too. Yeah, it is on our wall. That was a fun job too. But the same thing applies. This prestigious high school that their brand didn't really match what they did, and we worked with Vin in rebranding that high school, and that was really a fun project. Matthew, you said when clients come in, do you show them how much your work has helped them, or do they just trust you from history of work? I know for most of us, it's a huge investment. You show them how much your work has helped them. Yeah, I think, Matthew, I'd say it's a mixture of both. I mean, certainly they can see from our body of work the success that we've had for some of these clients. We've really tried to make it a point to illustrate to those companies why that has been so important, and how that decision has reshaped their business. I was actually just talking to Scott, who's on this webinar today, about what his rebrand has done, and I could show you quick what we did for him. But it's something. This is the rebrand that we just did for Air Professionals, and you could really get a sense of this new fresh life that we've breathed into this company, and how it's re-energized even just the whole team that he has there. So I think that it's there is a sense of trust for sure, and I think that seeing how much it's helped the other companies really instills a lot of confidence, and certainly the before and afters as well. Definitely you see that clients have kind of this warm blanket that they feel about their existing brand, where they think they've had this measure of success that has justified keeping their existing brand. But I can tell you that we've rebranded ourselves, and I've gone through the experience, and I had the same brand for 21 years before we rebranded about 8 months ago to KickCharge. And it was good for me to go through that experience, but certainly having gone through it now, I can definitely say it was the best thing that we've done as a company as well. So I think that it tends to be something that our clients really come to appreciate after they go through the experience. But obviously there's a bit of apprehension in doing it too. I think that's only natural. It's scary. There's a lot of stuff that's involved in doing it. So even on that point too, on our website, there's a section that talks about what to do after you've rebranded, and that's something that you can see on this particular page. If I can show you real quick. So if you go back here under tips and tools, and you see this section on our website called Next Steps, this will walk you through what happens after you rebrand and how you get that new brand executed. So if you have some time, you can go to that particular page. So Robert said, I receive clients because of my logo and brand. We are having a name the crab contest. Yep, that's from David Shaw. So that's another client that we just finished rebranding. You're right, RDS Delivery is another client. They're on the homepage of our site, and you can see them here. When we rebranded them, I think it was within a week or two of rebranding, they got, I think, $117,000 job that someone had seen. So because of someone seeing their truck. So, I mean, there's some really great examples of people that have really seen the power of what that new brand has done. And then they become, they're really, it's funny because they almost become brand snobs, right? So now they have this awesome brand, and they look at all these other brands that are out there, and they can't believe some of this stuff that's out there. So I think when they go through the experience, it's pretty funny because they really tend to appreciate it. Thank you, Dan. We hooked up last year. Big fan. I'd like to discuss with you. A brand name is strong and one of options, mascot title name. Yeah, Joe, that sounds great. Reach out to us and let's chat about that a little bit more. Let me just see, Scott. Yeah, once people go through the experience, yeah, they really do become brand snobs, and they're looking at trucks driving down the road, and they're texting me pictures of it and saying how terrible it is. Look at this thing I just saw, and they'll send me a picture of it. So it is pretty funny, but a lot of people do start the conversation, and they think that they have a really great brand already. And then we talk about the challenges that they have with it, and maybe why it's not really communicating who they are as a company, and how we can help fix that for them. So yeah, Rob says it all the time. Yeah, Rob, there's some scary stuff out in LA by where you're at for sure. But now you're out there and you're setting the bar pretty high, I think. So I think that this whole thing will be available also if you guys ever want to rewatch it for whatever reason. I think we'll be able to send you guys a link after it records. So if anyone else wants to see it, or share it with anyone else, I think that you'll have the opportunity to do that for us. So, all right, I think that's it, guys. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for spending an hour with me today. I hope you got something out of this. Of course, if you guys have any questions, let me know. There's a ton of resources on our website under our blog. If you guys are more interested in learning more about some topics related to this, there's so much great content on our blog. You can search by different topics. So just take a look through any of that stuff. If you have any questions, let me know. If you also want to learn more or more in depth, the book that I wrote, it's called Building a Big Small Business Brand. You can get it from our website, and you can also obviously get it from Amazon. If you buy it from our website, you'll get my awesome autograph on it, which is going to be worth tons as soon as I die. So that'll be something you could do, or you could get it from Amazon as well. So that's it, man. So listen, thanks so much. I really appreciate everybody stopping by today.